really good. No OTAs, no preseason. The Chargers have the best corners in the league. The Chargers have two of the best pass rushers, Bosa and Ingram. You're talking about a young kid, young head coach, below average offensive line. You got to grade this kid on the curve. You got to consider circumstances. My first 45-second reaction, just what did my eyes say? He's a little bigger than I thought he would look in the NFL. He's clearly jacked up his arms and shoulders. He looks like a Lamar Jackson. You see him and you're like, oh, he looks a little bigger than I thought. Joe Burrow put on some upper body weight. He's a little quicker and more elusive than I thought he would be. He's clearly trained for this and put a lot of hours in. I thought he looked really good. He gave himself a D, which I love because he's humble. I thought it was a B to a B-plus performance. That's what a franchise quarterback looks like. That's what they look like. And I'll tell you something. That last drive, these are against great great corners, great edge rushers. He'd been hammered on the day. He threw for almost 200 yards. He rushed for 46 and a touchdown. He'd gotten his lunch handed to him. He had a bad late fourth quarter turnover. All that could get into his head. Nothing. They gave him the ball in the last drive. He marched right down. He was cool. He was calm. He was poised. His feet were good. He wasn't locked in on one receiver. Tyrod Taylor, the veteran, to me yesterday was too often locked in on one receiver. Burrow, the kid, was not. I could sit here today and bang on him. He had a 66 quarterback rating and a terrible late game turnover. I thought he was really good. He's a much better prospect than Baker Mayfield. I believe after watching him yesterday, he's not as erratic, although mistake-prone a little yesterday. He's got more ups. Maybe, I don't know the upside. He looks better than Darnold, who's still making dumb mistakes. Baker still feels like the same guy with a fourth coach. If that's the opening act for Joe Burrow, that is a good opening act. He never looked nervous. And remember, he won't face the rest of the year corners that good. Those corners for the Chargers, they got three guys that can play. Three guys that have made a Pro Bowl. I think 2 or 3 are still in their prime. So, tip of the cap. I thought he was good. And by the way, I said this before. When I compared him to Tony Romo is a A-, B-plus quarterback. Tony Romo's a good player. Y'all dogged him for a year. I swear to God, when I was at the other company, all I did was defend Tony Romo. He looked like a Tony Romo. He can move. He's prone to an occasional big mistake, but he's kind of a gunslinger. He's athletic. He moves well. He's got a nice arm. Not a great arm. He got a nice arm. He looks like an athlete. I mean, he reminds me of Romo. And that's a really good comp. Romo, if you go look at Tony Romo's final stats in his career, he's a strong B-plus or a weak A- quarterback. Cincinnati hadn't had that in a long time. This is a way better prospect than Baker, a way better prospect than Andy Dalton. This morning, I think he's a better prospect than Sam Darnold, who I like, and better than Josh Allen. He's good. He's a good player. You got a player in Cincinnati. Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herdline News.
I mean, the final drive, he got them down there and put them in field goal position. If the kicker didn't...
He got bingled.
Whatever that was.
He got bingled.
I mean, he had them in a position to send them into overtime. What more can you ask for?
Against a team that strength is their defensive front and corners. It was like he wasn't moving up and down the field on a weak defense. I thought it was impressive.
I'm not going to say I'm surprised, because I did think that Joe Burrow was going to be good. But I thought it was a great first game for him, considering the circumstances. So, someone else I was very impressed with yesterday, Dwayne Haskins. Washington didn't get off to a great start. They fell down 17 in the first half to the Eagles. But at halftime, Coach Ron Rivera was getting an IV, and Dwayne Haskins took the opportunity to step up and be a leader. He gave a speech that his teammate Fabian Moreau said got everyone riled up and put the team on his back, and definitely worked. Washington kept Philly scoreless in the second half and rallied to win 27-17 in kind of a shocker. Now, Jason McIntyre did come on the show Friday and predict this, and I was like, I don't know about that. But that was really impressive out of Washington yesterday.
You know what? Now, here's the thing that's always been true with Haskins. Great size, and when he can stay in the pocket, got a big, strong frame and a big arm. When I saw him at Ohio State, my knock was when he moves, he gets really erratic. He's not super athletic with his feet. But he's a big, tall kid with a big arm, and if you put him in a pocket, I'll tell you, he made some nice throws in this game. This is not, you can say what you want, but Philadelphia is a real team with and they have some good players in the back end. I thought it was impressive by him.
Well, he was impressive to me But that defense.
Oh, God.
Sacked Wentz 8 times. Now, look, I don't want to give too much credit to the Washington defense because the offensive line was a bit of a disaster yesterday.
This was a big
win for Washington.
And it was a big day for Ron Rivera. Remember, the last 4 months for Washington, nothing has gone right. It has been utter chaos for this franchise.
Yes.
And yesterday, it was chaos in the first half, and something happened at halftime, and Washington came out. For the last 4 months, it's been noise and calamity and owner issues and...
Well, that's why I love that it was Haskins that happened at halftime. I had a lot of questions about Haskins coming into this year. Really wasn't sure if he was going to take a next step. And I don't want to overreact to week 1 and be that person, but you got to love what you saw from him yesterday. 17 of 31, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and he was voted the team captain this season. So he's definitely stepping into that role. Now, how he's going to develop, we'll see, but he's got the defense there, so as long as he can continue taking steps forward, I thought that was a nice win for them yesterday. Well, I am going to overreact to the Packers, though, because that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He looked as good as ever, Aaron Rodgers, in the season opener against the Vikings. 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 43-34 win. And him and Devontae Adams were on fire, franchise record tying 14 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. I do think that Minnesota is better than they looked yesterday, but that was really impressive out of Aaron Rodgers.
By the way, Minnesota head coach Mike Zimmer does not want Kirk Cousins to throw the ball.
Well, yeah, I mean, that first half stat line for Kirk Cousins was what?
3 of 5. That's an organization. Your coach will tell you what he thinks of your quarterback by attempts. I mean, Mike Zimmer has no interest Kirk Cousins throwing the football. None.
I mean, can you argue that? Looking at that performance yesterday and what they asked from him?
Yeah. The book is out on Kirk Cousins. Let's stop. It's like I always said this about Andy Dalton. Franchise guy, capable. Stop trying to convince me what my eyes are not seeing. Kirk's fine, really low ceiling. We can stop arguing.
Their team looks different than last year, obviously. And again, I don't want to overreact to week 1. I do think Minnesota is still a good team. They lost a defensive end. And they had another pass rusher hurt. Minnesota's better than this. Yes. Green Bay's probably not quite this good. Minnesota's not this bad. It will level out throughout the season, but it's still a great opener for Green Bay considering. Mm-hmm. Finally, Clippers cannot seem to close out the Nuggets. There was so much sports on yesterday. I know. I didn't watch any of this. I caught the fourth quarter. Yeah. But it was on during the early games. It's tough. But after being up 3-1 in the series, they're headed to a Game 7 with Denver to earn a spot in the Western Conference Finals. In Game 6, the Clippers had a 19-point lead at the start of the third, but Denver outscored them 64-35 in the second half to get the 111-98 win. The Nuggets are trying to become the first team in NBA history to rally from a pair of 3-1 deficits in the same postseason after obviously doing it with Utah in the first round. All right, nobody thinks the Clippers are the Warriors with KD and Steph. Nobody thinks they're MJ's Bulls. Nobody thinks they're the Spurs dynasty of the Heatles. Can people stop going, Colin, what about the Clippers? They're going to a Game 7. Nobody thinks this is a great team. We think it's occasionally great, but mostly pretty good, wildly inconsistent, developing chemistry. It is okay to go to a Game 7, which the Clippers will win. It'll be feisty. Denver, for the record, we knew going into this season, they're one of the most talented teams. This is not a Portland team that's hobbled. It's a healthy Denver team that's really good. Folks, this is not MJ's Bulls. You get 7-game series and 6-game series when you're a pretty good team against a pretty good opponent. I really don't love that they're up 3-1. Close a team out. That part is not That's convincing fair to me. For what I expect of the Clippers this year, this should not have happened. They're 0-7 in games when they could clinch a trip to the conference finals. But it's okay to have full series. Isn't this what we want? We want the most amount of basketball. It's supposed to be a Game 7 series. We got spoiled with the Warriors sweeping through. We get spoiled with LeBron sweeping or gentlemen sweeping teams through all the way to the finals. This is how playoffs mostly look. They're supposed to look like this. Pretty even. And we came into this season with 2 good stars everywhere. Nobody had 3 great stars. So we said it was going to be a year of... It's going to be much more balanced. And it is. Yes. And the Celtics and the Raptors went to a Game 7. Again, I don't love it from the Clippers. I do think the Clippers should have closed them out, but I'm happy with a Game 7. And what's better than a Game 7 in sports? Yeah. You should be happy about this. We're going to have 2 Game 7s in both conferences. Why? Because we don't have a great team.
If we had a great team, we'd have had
and isn't this
5
what
games.
everybody wanted? All I could hear about for the past 10 years is, this ruined. Too many big threes.
Dynasty. We don't have one. This is what you get.
This is
Close
what happens when
games.
there's no dynasties. Exactly.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
It is